Okay, whenever.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Your mission statement talks about how you talk about value in terms of customer loyalty. Do you mind expanding on that and what it means to the company and what it means to you personally?
So company-wise, I think what they're referring to is their quality. They don't lowball anybody. They can't. It's not effective for what they do. They offer quality over quantity. So what they want is they want a long-lasting relationship with somebody that sees good product continuously for a long period of time. That's their goal with it. What I see is basically the same thing. We don't enforce speed. We don't enforce it. We enforce safety more than anything, which is rare, and you won't find it a lot. A lot of people will start putting speed as the top. As soon as they get their goals and the criteria out, and bosses start forcing it down, that's all they'll think about. But for us, if we argue it's not safe, that wins. So I think a lot of it's got to be built on quality. And when you're not trying to be as cheap as possible, you have to have something to offer to get the customer to come back. And that's what they view as that reason for them to come back. And that's why they want them to come back like that.
Okay. Do you feel that your leadership style reflects that? So your team knows that what you want out of them is what you want?
Nah, maybe not so much. I'm overall, I'm very passive, and I don't drive for perfection out of people. I try to help them whenever possible. I'm a good teacher, but I'm not necessarily that. My former boss was one of those kind of people. Great mind, extremely creative, and very good at getting the numbers. That kind of person is going to get you the kind of quality you're looking for. But you have to have, I think you have to have some people like me to help build relationships with the employees, because it's not just all quality and customer all the time. You actually have to have that employee base too. And I think that's where my role is stronger, and I'm not necessarily great at producing awesome products. I'm good at getting people to enjoy what they're doing while they're creating that product.
Got it. Understood. Do you, like, your higher ups hold monthly meetings where you talk about, goals or any team building activities?
Yeah, weekly, most of the time, multiple times a week. So the structure we have is there's 3 layers of management at my facility. You have supervisors, managers, and then a service center manager. That service center manager is in contact with a regional VP hourly, like all the time. Once you get to about my level, communication becomes just the key important task of everything. I email, text, call my boss continuously through the whole week, Saturday, Sunday, all throughout the whole time. 5 in the morning when I'm trying to sleep, or whenever it is, it has to keep going. He's even more dedicated to that than I am.
Okay.
That guy is always just constantly communicating with his boss, and what's being communicated is just what you're talking about: problems, solutions, goals, those kind of things. Every day it's continuous flow on it.
Okay. And you believe that improves, for a lack of a better word, your guys' relationship as teammates or coworkers, or as a team overall?
It depends on how you do it. Me personally, I hate that kind of stuff. I don't like it. I think it's very dry, very robotic, and there's no personality behind it. But some people like that. When I see the number 1, what you didn't do right, number 2, what you didn't do right, number 3, what you didn't do right, number 4, thank you, and then sends it off. To me, it's like there's nothing there. It's just, here, fix it. And if you get that repeatedly throughout the whole day, it doesn't really build anything. It's just to-do lists almost.
Understood.
Yeah.
You talked previous about how, a company might have a certain way of you talking to your, your coworkers, but you have a much more informal way. Do you believe that's much more effective than, talking to somebody about an event that happened over the weekend, like you previously stated?
Yeah, I think it's beneficial for me. Companies, most of the time, they want you to hold group meetings every day. Group meeting at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever it is, discussing material that either they hand out or repetitive material that you have yourself. That kind of a communication might work once or twice, but then it won't work continuously. So I think my version of it is more effective. I go around and hold personal meetings is what I used to call them.
Okay.
And I'd bring the sheet over and be like, hey, this is the list of stuff. You got any questions on this? And the amount of feedback I'd get just from isolating somebody and putting them on the spot, it was tenfold compared to the other. Now, this is a corporate. Can it hit me for it? Maybe not. They probably won't hit me for it. I still have a signed sheet that I scan in at the end of the day. You know, it's still done. But I agree that people are different, and there's an amount of personality that you have to get into with somebody to show you care. Otherwise, it's just the same old thing every day. I think it's a good thing. Other people might not.
Understood. You stated that the company is growing. It's going to get to a point where the policies that are now in a gray area will have to be well defined. How hard is it to get the values across the company to your employees?
No, that's a struggle, especially with my section. I operate the outbound side of things, which is a lot of part-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
I have quite a bit of turnover. It is hard. The biggest challenge is just keeping consistent. I've lost some of the fire. I'll be the first one to admit to you. When I first started, I had a lot more passion behind it, and I would dedicate more time.
Mm-hmm.
But after you see it just constantly recycle a lot, it's hard for you to just do it. It's actually something you have to delegate. You have to have the guys that have been there for a while, the full-timers, the couple full-time spots I have to rely on them to keep that going too. And when you got other people that are feeling the same way, that have the same background, that care, it helps build it. But if you keep recycling it, it's your job to push it out there, and it's not easy. It's very difficult to do that.
Understood. So with such a high turnover rate, is there any one or two values that you feel like have to be respected no matter what?
In terms of what they're looking for?
In terms of what the company wants out of them, whether it's
Yeah.
respect, equality, fairness,
Honesty.
honesty.
Honesty is one of our biggest ones, period. The company is extremely lenient, a lot of gray areas in policy.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff that probably you should be cut for, that if you're honest about and you admit to it, that they'll hold you there for it. They won't release you, they won't terminate you over it, which blows my mind, but it's sweet. It's one of the few companies that can do that, and I think it's a great thing. But man, employees, yeah, just a word of advice: honest, sincere. That's number one. And if you're respectful on top of that, that's a trifecta right there. I mean, that's best. That's all I'd ask for.
Okay.
I could care less about skill or anything else. I'll work with that, but.
Understood. Are there any communication problems that like your firm faces between team members or with your customers?
All the time, yeah. Yeah, you always get people that don't mesh well, or you get people that have personal agendas that want to spread that onto other people, and you're always going to have conflict. And it happens at all levels. We have conflict between management to management, employee to management, and then employee to employee. I deal at least with one of those a week, at least. And personally, those are the most tiring, taxing conversations you can have, just because a lot of people don't seem to want to listen to anything. Mm-hmm. So it makes it very hard to explain what the problems are, or even get what the problem is, if you just got two stories that don't add up and nobody wants to tell the true story to it.
Understood.
Yeah.
How do you best handle that? As you get higher up, you must have a lot of things in your hand, a lot of tasks and duties. Do you just delegate that to somebody else, or do you still personally want to be involved in that?
I got two relatively new supervisors, so I am involved more than what they'd probably recommend. Later on, I'll start pulling away from that. But always having involvement shows that you care. Mm-hmm. And you might not always want to be involved, or you might not have time for it, but I force myself to make time for those things. And how I prepare for it is different now than it used to be. I use a lot of I do homework on it. Okay. So before I even ask these two guys whatever the problem was, I will search the cameras to see what kind of body language is used. I'll check their doc stats to see what they were scanning, where they were at, and how they interacted. I'll do all that stuff before I even invite these two guys in. Then I'll ask both of them individually, then I'll bring them in together, ask them the same questions together, and I'll see, some people's stories change, and it's so easy to make that call at that point. Mm-hmm. But that's how you gotta do it.
your company's values not align with your own? And if so, how do you like best deal with that? Or what's the best way to go around it after so many years of experience like yourself?
This one's not bad. This company's not bad, but I've worked for previous employers and I've disagreed. Military especially, I've disagreed with a lot of stuff in the military. But what you do, for me, I was always respect number one, no matter what, and that helped me for the military. In the military, I hated the structure. There was no, you're good at what you do here, let's make you in charge of this. It's, oh, you've been here 12 years, you're in charge of this. And that causes a lot of issues. A lot of issues with a lot of things. And I'm not saying I'm a smart guy or anything like that, but when you hear something that doesn't make sense and you still have to do it, to me that's a very frustrating part, but I never wanted to disrespect anybody. And that's how I think you adjust with it. You use one of your personality traits that you can mold, and you use that to make excuses to yourself on why you're doing certain things. So for me, it was respect and patriotism. That's why I'm doing this job that I think shouldn't be done. It's not because, you know, I respect that person. It's I respect the whole situation, and that's how I would make it good with myself. But does that explain what you were saying?
Yeah, that definitely answers the question. That's all I have. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.